You know, a lot of people are starting to catch on to the fact that this economy is not so great, and it's being reflected in a lot of the data. And one of the most recent data points that we got access to is consumer sentiment and how worried people are about losing their job right now. And it turns out more people are worried about losing their job than ever before since the Fed started keeping track back in 2014. Now, I know that's not a huge track record, but it's all the data we have to work with. And I'm sure if this index went back to 2007, 2008, we would see the same level of fear. According to the New York Fed and the most recent data, you have the likelihood of people losing their jobs rising to 4.4%. All right. And a year ago, in July of 2023, it was 3.9%. This is the highest level since they started keeping track in 2014. And when you take a look at this chart, you can see just how much it has jumped lately. And the only time it was even close to that was during COVID. But actually, more people are now worried about losing their job today in 2024 than they were 4 years ago during the pandemic. What does that say about the status of this economy right now? I mean, this isn't a coincidence, guys. We just saw the unemployment rate jump tremendously from 4.1 to 4.3%. But then all these news outlets try to sit there and tell us that the layoffs are still very low right now. And a lot of people are not losing jobs. Yet the unemployment rate disagrees with that. You know, you can have whatever kind of narratives you want. As far as I'm concerned, everyone's entitled to their opinions, but you cannot have your own facts, okay? You can't have your own data. You know, the data says that the unemployment's at 4.4%. And since we know that most of the government data we get access to is completely bogus, it's actually probably much worse than that, just like the inflation numbers are worse and so on. We've also seen a large uptick in the amount of people who are searching for new jobs right now. Okay, according to this recent data, it shows that 28.4% of people are searching for a new job right now, which is also the highest amount since they started keeping track in 2014. I mean, clearly we have some consistencies here and some through lines, which is that these data points are the highest since they started keeping track. And we're not even officially in recession yet. Although if you look at the SOM rule, we actually are, and probably have been for at least a few months. And most likely what will happen is towards the beginning of next year, after the election is over, after the new president takes over, that's when they will announce that we are in a recession. Maybe it'll be right after the election, I don't know. But the fact is, you cannot dispute this, guys. You can't dispute what people are feeling. You can't dispute the unemployment data, and you can't dispute how weak the jobs numbers have been. In fact, the job revision numbers are supposed to come out this week, which I will cover later in the week once I actually have that information. But you can guarantee that the revisions are going to be downward. It's not like they're going to say, oh no, we actually created a lot more jobs than we said we did over the past few months. No, it's going to be, oh, yeah, about that. You know, it's going to be that kind of thing. We actually meant it was 30% lower than what we reported initially. So that's what we're looking forward to here. And it's not even just the New York Fed's data that is confirming this. In fact, there was a new report from Glassdoor. Their employee confidence index remains significantly below 2022 levels. The index, which measures the share of workers who report a positive 6-month business outlook for their employers, was 48.1% in July. And we always talk about all the special assessments and work that needs to be done on condos, guys. Here you go, right here. That's what they're doing in this place. So Glassdoor is saying this is largely due to burnout because you had all these labor shortages, and then the people who stayed behind and didn't lose their jobs or didn't take the work from home positions, you know, got the lion's share of the work during these last few years when people were staying at home and not working or working from home. Meanwhile, the companies are actually laying people off again. They're also pulling back on hiring at the same time, which leaves many people stretched to the max right now. You know, you have, a lot of people are doing 2 or 3 people's jobs right now. I know my dad is one of them at the post office. But literally every week we're hearing stories about, 4,000 more layoffs here at Cisco, another 1,000 layoffs happening at General Motors this week. You know, and then there was the big one a couple weeks ago with Intel laying off like what was it, 18,000 people, Dell over 12,000 people. These are massive layoffs, but yet they have the nerve to say that, you know, layoffs across the country remain low, even though the unemployment rate is ticking up at an alarming rate, which is always a sign looking backwards that we're in a recession, guys. And, you know, the other thing to note is that every time the unemployment rate starts going up this fast, it usually keeps that momentum for some time to come. You know, unemployment could easily be in the mid-5s by the end of the year if it keeps going like this. I just have to say, I absolutely love walking along the bay here in the Bay Area, guys, because it is just like natural air conditioning. It's a pretty hot day today for this area, like 80 degrees, little heat wave coming through. But when you're walking next to this cool water, it feels fantastic. I wish the water got this cold in Miami. A lot of people love the warm water in Florida, but I actually prefer the cold water here, especially when it gets hot outside. But anyhow, one of my viewers, Chris, he lives up in Connecticut, and he shared this story with me, which is kind of crazy, guys. What it talks about is how much electric bills have risen in Connecticut, and part of the reason has been because of this public benefits adjustment that they make to your bill over there. So on top of paying your regular electric bill, you also have to pay for this public benefits charge to your monthly electric bill. And it varies based on usage, but what it is it makes you pay for infrastructure to support the electric car charging stations that no one asked for, by the way, as well as paying back unpaid electric bills during COVID. So these guys have the audacity to charge paying customers extra for people who didn't pay during COVID at the same time to install all this electric car infrastructure that no one voted for and no one asked for. I mean, how this is even legal, guys, I have no idea, but this is happening. And I have several examples to share with you in this story, but I want to point out a couple of things that Chris mentioned. He says that, you know, you have everybody in the state of Connecticut being forced to pay for this right now, and literally 95% of the residents still drive gas-powered cars. So everyone has to pay for the 5% who are adopting electric vehicles, which is completely unfair. This is basically communism. And to give you an example about the electric bill situation, for his house, he says he has a 3,000 square foot house there, and his electric bill last month was $433, and $60 of the bill was for those public benefits. You know, that's almost 14% of Chris's electric bill going towards paying for this nonsense. And there's a very long story on this, and I always link all the stories below. Sometimes people ask me about this stuff, so if I cover a news story, I have the original link to the story down in the description of my videos, guys. But anyways, they talked to another woman there. Her July electric bill was $741.30. And she never expected to see a bill that high, obviously. And it was so high that she thought maybe she missed the payment on the previous month's bill, because she's never seen a bill that high before. She said a couple years ago, you know, we had a really hot summer and I had an electric bill of like $500, and that was the record. Now the record has been smashed because now it's $741. So here's the breakdown of her electric bill. $336 was the supply, $175 is the local delivery charge, and $154 of this bill is the public benefits, guys. $154. So in the case of this woman, her public benefits charge was actually 20% of her electric bill. So it's like the more electricity you use, the higher this public benefits charge will be, and the higher percentage of your bill it will take. It's just like taxes, guys. Like the more money you make, the more governments take. Well, now this is happening with electric bills. Needless to say, a lot of people have been caught off guard by this rising expense, and of course it's been a hot summer practically everywhere. So a lot of people in Connecticut are probably feeling this higher electric bill right now. In fact, as I'm reading this story, about 24,000 people so far have signed a petition on change.org in order to call on the Connecticut governor and the public utilities regulation to eliminate this public benefit charge on consumers' electrical bills, because this is actually a state law over there that they have to reverse in order for the electric companies to cut this out. Because right away you might want to blame the power company, but they're forced by law to actually collect this charge because of the laws in Connecticut. So anybody who lives in Connecticut who's being affected by this, I will try to remember to put the link for this petition in the description so you guys can go ahead and sign it, because the more signatures petitions get, then the more likely it is to get raised in front of the governor, and maybe actually something might be done about it. Because I know if it were me, I would be signing this in a heartbeat, guys, because this is ridiculous. And get this, the power company, when this whole thing was implemented, said that they believe the average customer would see an increase of about $8 a month. $8 a month? Give me a break, guys. We're talking hundreds of dollars per month. You know, this is so wrong what they're doing over there. It's not even funny. I have never heard of this before. And of course, somebody in charge of the power company says it's important to point out that for the vast majority of customers who are very angry about the high bills, it's because that they're using more electricity because it's been a hot summer. Well, yeah, you know, you pay more for electricity, of course, but obviously the more electricity you use and the higher your bill is, then the more you're going to get charged this public benefit charge, and makes the bill even higher. So you get slapped in the face with this twice. But some people just aren't having it, guys, and some people are standing up for themselves, which is really nice to see. This one woman over there, she refuses to pay the public benefits portion of her energy bill until this situation is resolved. That's how against some people are with this, which they should be, rightfully so. This woman says this, she goes, "In what world are we responsible to pay for others who refused or didn't pay their electric bills during COVID? I call that socialism. Once again, the people that worked and paid their bills are being punished and forced to pay for bills that aren't paying theirs." You know, somebody wrote in the comments the other day that just resonated with me, that kind of reflected the same sentiment, guys. Like, it doesn't pay off to be a good, hard-working citizen anymore. You know, they bring in all these illegals from everywhere, give them free health care, free place to live, you know, food stamps, the whole 9 yards, things that nobody here gets unless you're, you know, making no money and basically unemployed. There's this reward system in play right now in this country for not working. And it's gotten much worse ever since the pandemic. You know, people are being rewarded for not working. Oh, don't worry, you don't have to pay the rent. Don't worry, you don't have to pay the credit card bills. Don't worry, you don't have to pay the mortgage. And now don't worry, you don't have to pay your electric bill because somebody else is gonna pay it for you. Like, come on, this is a joke. You know, and it really demoralizes people that wanna do the right thing and want to still grab their piece of the American dream, but there's less of an incentive than ever to do that because of things like this. And I agree with this woman, you know, saying that this is socialism. This is exactly what this is, guys. And she goes, "It is the responsibility of Eversource," that's the name of the power company, "to eat the loss because that's the risk of doing business." 100%. You know, this lady knows what she's talking about, and she says that you don't get to make others pay while the CEO's salary is in the millions, guys. This is like the story of every corporation right now, you know? We're gonna raise your bills, we're gonna raise the price of everything. Meanwhile, corporate profits are soaring and have been for a very long time. That's why you see the stock market doing as good as it is. At the same time, the CEO's pay of these companies is in the tens of millions of dollars a year, if not more, but you have to pay more for everything. And if you live in Connecticut, that means your electric bill too. So if you live there, guys, go and sign that petition. Like I said, I'll try to remember to have it linked below. If not, just look it up on change.org. I'm sure you will find it, and make sure you sign that and try to get this whole thing abolished, because this is ridiculous. You know, one other thing I want to say about this is some people have to have the electric on all the time for different reasons. You know, like they highlighted someone's story in here where their portion of the electric bill for the public benefits charge was $113 for the month. And the thing is, he's on dialysis and has stage 5 kidney failure. So what that means is that they have to have the dialysis machine on for like 12 hours a day. And all day long, that thing is just sucking energy. And it's to save the guy's life, to keep him alive. And on top of that, they have to keep the temperature stable inside the house because he's sick. So that adds up tremendously as well. I know in Florida, by far the largest portion of my electric bill is the AC, guys. And then you have people that are already struggling financially, having to pay this extra public benefits charge. You know, this woman, she's a single mother, and she's already fighting these really high electric bills, and she's paying over $120 a month just in the public benefits charge of her electric bill. So just crazy stuff. You know, people that are already struggling financially are having to pay for everyone else's mistakes, you know, and installing infrastructure for EVs that no one asked for. Speaking of that, I got this email here in California from PG&E, okay? Take a look what it says here. Get up to $4,000 back on a used electric vehicle. Driving an EV is now more affordable with the pre-owned electric vehicle rebate program. You may qualify for up to $4,000 on the purchase or lease of an eligible used all-electric vehicle or plug-in hybrid EV. What you got to do is you have to purchase the car, obviously, or lease it, and you have to submit your rebate application within 180 days of the purchase, and then it says you can receive up to $4,000. So it doesn't say or guarantee that you will receive $4,000, but you can almost guarantee you're going to need that $4,000 if you're buying a used electric vehicle, guys, because we've talked about this before. If you need to replace the battery on these cars, it can be astronomically expensive. We're talking well over $10,000, $12,000, $15,000 depending on the model of car you own. So that $4,000 is going to be a drop in the bucket once your battery kicks the bucket. And here's something else it says, guys. Why EVs are a good idea. Lower fuel costs. Charge your EV for the equivalent of $3.30 per gallon of fuel on PG&E's EV rate plan. Well, that's not really that good of a deal because regular fuel here in California, I'm paying $4.09 a gallon or so. So that's not very much more expensive than what it says here for charging the electric car. And I know sometimes it can be more. Like last year I was here, gas was over $5 a gallon. But even so, guys, like especially people that live here in California, that's probably not breaking their bank. You know, if it costs you an extra $15 or $20 to put fuel in your car versus electricity, and you can do it in 5 minutes and, you know, you drive a lot, that's well worth the convenience charge of needing to have that car ready to go versus charging it all the time. And then it goes less EV maintenance. EVs do not use oil, filters, or belts that require regular maintenance. Well, maybe they don't, but they do have problems with batteries that are very expensive to fix. And you know, another thing is that they don't even mention here, surprisingly, is how good for the environment EVs are. Well, guess what? There was just something on the news last night here in California, how Highway 80 here is blocked up by Lake Tahoe due to an electric vehicle battery fire, okay? They say that these fires are impossible to put out, essentially. And what happens is they have to just let it burn out for the most part. And they have to close down the highway, not just because of the fire, but because the fumes from burning these batteries are so toxic that people can't even drive by. It can make you very sick. So what about all the homeowners that have houses nearby this battery fire? How do they get affected by this? You know, that they're claiming how good for the environment these things are, but these battery fires happen all the time. In fact, just a few weeks ago, there was another one in Las Vegas where they had to shut down the entire highway between LA and Vegas. It was a big deal all over the news because of what? An electric vehicle battery fire. Let me just tell you guys, I'm not trying to pick a fight or demonize anybody who drives an electric car. If you like your car, that's great. I don't care. You know, you should be able to drive whatever car you want. It's supposedly a free country, right? Just like it's my right to sit here and spew out these facts on YouTube about this stuff. But my beef with all of this is that, you know, places like California, places like the EU are trying to force this whole electric vehicle mandate onto people that they don't even want. You know, and in places like Connecticut, they're doing this as well and forcing you to pay for it, even though you don't want this, even though you didn't vote for this. Maybe you don't even want to drive an electric car, but they're forcing people to pay for this anyhow. Meanwhile, the electric bills are exploding all over the place. You know, it's not just a California problem, it is a problem here, like I've covered on the channel, but clearly it's happening in a lot of other places too. I just want people to wake up, like just realize, like, can't you see what's going on here? Can't you see that all these electric vehicle mandates are happening simultaneously while the electric bills are exploding nationwide? And that's not a red flag for you? That doesn't give you reason to pause and say, maybe I shouldn't buy an electric vehicle. Maybe it's not a good idea to have all of my appliances in my entire house run on electricity, including my car, and then I'm at mercy of whatever the electric bill is. No, this is so stupid, guys. I'm so pissed off about this, because when I hear about these things and like it's being forced on everyone with no one asking for it, is just completely wrong. People need to start pushing back against this. In fact, I went to an open house over the weekend, and I saw this place, and the realtor said all of the appliances have already been switched over to electric ahead of the 2027 mandate here in California, where they're going to force everybody who has gas-powered appliances to now have electric-powered appliances. Meanwhile, everyone's electric bill here is also going through the roof. Why are people in California are accepting this? You know, I even asked her, like, what's the deal with that? And she's like, I don't know, like shaking her head like she wasn't in agreement with it. Like, why are you guys approving this? Why are you letting the people who control your state do this to you? Why? You know, people really need to start fighting back on these things before it's too late, guys. You need to be signing these petitions. You need to have all of your neighbors reaching out to the local and state governments, pushing back against these terrible ideas, saying that you don't want this if you don't want it. And I can't imagine why anybody would want to be paying, you know, $700 a month electric bills and climbing due to having everything being all electric. So it's not that I'm against electric anything, okay? I'm not against something that runs on electricity, okay? Even though my appliances in my condo are electricity, I'm fine with it, okay? But my electric bill isn't $700 a month. And I also don't drive an electric car that I have to pay for to charge as well. And at the same time, in Florida, I'm not being forced to make these switches against my will or pay for other people's electric bills that they didn't feel like paying. Now, one last thing I want to show you guys real quick is another credit card statement that Alicia sent me, because I've been showing you guys how high these interest rates have been climbing on these credit card bills, and it's just astronomical, okay? The one she sent me is from the Citi and Sears credit card that she has. It just got raised to 34.24%. Another one that's in the 35% range if you don't pay the bill. So being in credit card debt right now is literally the worst time ever to get into it. And unfortunately, more people than ever are being forced to go into that credit card debt because they got to pay other people's electric bills, or they have to pay for charging stations so that 5% of the population can drive electric cars. So I hope everybody who resonated with this video, if you see things like this happening where you live, I hope you fight against it before it's too late and we're all forced to eat the bugs. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure you subscribe to the channel, and if you don't want to wait for my next video to come out, check out this one on the screen right over here, and I'll see you in the next one.